Hi, my name is Bheki Kunene, and I am an under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nation shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them under 40 CEOs.
Once a troubled youth who spent time in juvenile detention facilities, Cape Town-based entrepreneur Bheki Kunene is proof that you can turn adversity into greatness. Kunene's childhood was much like that of so many other young people from the Cape Township of Gugulethu. He earned the title of troublemaker when, as a teenager, in a fit of rage, he took a hammer to his teacher, resulting in his expulsion from that and all other government schools. According to the African Business magazine, he found himself on the wrong side of the law numerous times during his teen years, going in and out of juvenile detention centers. Despite these challenges, and spurred on by his mother's and grandmother's encouragement, Kunene went on to study web and graphic design. But when he struggled to find a cost-required internship, he decided to start a business of his own. The company, Mindtrix Media, is a creative design company that specializes in web development and design, printing marketing material, and developing applications. Bheki Kunene is the CEO.
All right, welcome to Under 40 CEOs, Bheki.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Bheki, you were referred to as a troublemaker, growing up. But you've transitioned into a fine businessman. Please, this story cannot be overemphasized. Please do share about your childhood.
Firstly, I wouldn't really see myself as a troublemaker. I think I've obviously, had a few challenges and a few, slips here and there in my childhood, but the story goes quite short, whereby I out of a spur of the moment anger type thing, I lost my temper and I hit my teacher with a hammer. And
How old were you then?
13.
Wow.
At the age of 13. And, I've never really been a violent person, or I'm not really a violent person, but on that day, out of the spur of the moment anger, it just led to something. And I hit my teacher with a hammer. I was expelled from school, and that became a really challenging thing, where I remember Nelson Mandela would always say that the key to success is, education. And I'd always be like, but I think I don't have the key anymore, So it was really a troublesome time, and I tried a few suicide attempts, and life was really hard because everyone belittled me and kind of saw me as someone that would not really ever make it in life. And so that was the early childhood times, but I think it also just helped me develop mentally and become mentally stronger than most of my peers.
So mentally stronger, and of course, eventually you set up this amazing media company, Mindtrix Media. So what led you to set up the company? What problems was it designed to solve?
Looking at it when I left or I graduated, I kind of noticed that in my inception of the business, it was looking at the township market and the black market. And at the time, 2006, 2005, you'd drive around or walk around the township and you'll notice that all of the businesses had handwritten signage, or they did not really understand what a website was or what a business card was, and flyers, and everything was kind of hand done, And I thought, for me, seeing that there's no business within the township kind of taking care of that need, I thought I'd be the business to do that. And so it started out that way, and then it kind of transitioned where I kind of understood the business aspect of things and understood where, the lucrative market was and where the money was, started, transitioning and altering the business and, trying again, changing it, going back again. But the initial need was to service the township market with quality brand material and quality web stuff and great marketing material.
And you started with just 600 Rand, no business know-how, and today you've built a reputable global firm, with clients from all around the world. Share more about this journey.
To be honest, it's really just working on something that you're passionate about. To me, money was never really the core thing. It was more about doing what I'm passionate about, doing what I love to do, and showcasing how I can help you. And money seemed to follow. I remember with my first client, AAA Shuttles, I built this amazing brand. They had some, really, I don't want to mention the name, but the stuff was really bad. So I had to rebrand the whole company, from branding the cars to the website to the clothing material to everything. And I think because I did such a great, wonderful job out of passion, the invoice, he paid more than what I was anticipating. And he kind of led more clients to that. And I think throughout my time, it was always about designing something that I could have bragging rights with. So if I did something for you, I needed to make sure that I could brag with it. And if I couldn't brag and tell people I did that, then it wasn't worth my time doing. So I think that's what helped Mindtrix spread out like a wildfire.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
And talking about delegating, what is the current business structure at Mindtrix Media?
The current business structure essentially is, we've got so you've got myself and Cesar working with client service and just taking care of the accounts, where you've got the back team of creatives. But essentially, we do brand development, web design, software, we do apps, we do digital marketing, and we manage kind of social media campaigns. So it's a really nice digital agency that services clients with a nice full range of products that benefit their business objectives.
Okay, so what are your plans to scale over the next couple of years?
So we've got a Mindtrix running that we started in Namibia with a sister agency that we kind of started with. And that started launching out quite well with a number of, spin-offs with that and potential leads on that. So it's only been a month. We've also got, within South Africa, up in Joburg, we've got another satellite office there with Tabang. So we're kind of slowly starting to duplicate what we've already got. So I believe that the best way to grow businesses is to make sure that you've got the great structure and everything set out well here. And then we duplicate that.
Now, what's your approach to funding a startup? How would you advise a startup to go about raising funding for their business or even an idea?
I don't personally believe that there's any right way of doing it, depending on the business model and obviously what the company is trying to service or bring to the market. One way is like bootstrapping. A lot of businesses have service, and with service-related businesses, I think that there's a really nice place where people can actually just bootstrap and use what they have, and that's what we used at Mindtrix, where we kind of did bootstrapping and used what we had and built everything from the sales that the company was making. So, I mean, it's just a little bit of sacrifice and not having the cool car for the first year and not having that salary, but it's worth it because you owe no one and you work with less pressure with you. So that's one way of doing it, where the company can self-finance itself. The second way is there's crowdfunding. I mean, there's quite a few things online where the guys can really benefit from that. I've seen things that have come up nowadays which weren't around in those days.
Uh-huh.
So I think crowdfunding wasn't popular in that time, and a loan from the bank, it's a lot of money, but I always believe that borrowing money to make money is always a good loan, as opposed to borrowing money to just buy things. And I really don't think that's a problem. And if you're lucky enough, get family to kind of invest, small chips, or venture capitalists, it would be a very long narrative if I went into detail as to how one can go about with that. But there's quite a number of ways where people can, finance startups, And I think the one thing which I picked up from the Israelis is that try and have at least 3 directors or 3 founders. That way you can actually grow the business a little bit more faster, where one guy possibly does, the operations, and one guy takes care of, the management of the business. The one guy maybe does technical stuff. By having 3 heads on management level, I think that allows the business to accelerate faster, because doing it yourself, you're just going to be in a lot of things many times, and it's going to grow slower.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Starting out with street credibility in the Gugulethu township in Cape Town, Bheki is slowly building critical acclaim not only in South Africa but globally as his story continues to inspire. With sheer resilience, hard work, and focus, Bheki would later, in a stroke of sheer luck, get to spend 2 days with Richard Branson, a CEO he looks up to.
All right, Bheki, in 2013, you got to spend 2 days with Richard Branson. Tell me, how did that happen and how did it change your life?
It was just one of those amazing things where it was just unexpected. And I think the universe has a way of, giving to people that really just desire something and work to go get it. And I mean, it's a weird story where I was just tweeting and DJ Spoo had a competition on Twitter where his foundation was giving away these tickets and he had this conference going and Richard Branson was coming down to South Africa at the time. And all you have to do was tweet and retweet and tweet. And I think it was lunchtime in the office and I was like, whoa, Richard Branson coming to South Africa, what? Let me just give this a shot. I know I've never won anything. It's like playing the lotto. I just got a call the next day and said, yo, man, thanks for your tweet. We've chosen you so you can fly up to Joburg. It's got to be a joke, right? I was like, no, it's not a joke. It's me, DJ Smooth, for real. Okay. When am I going to see Richard Branson? Like, tomorrow, come through. I was like, straight after he said that, I think I didn't need any validation. I packed everything. I canceled all my meetings. I took a flight to Joburg, and I was there. And I think what really, just listening to Richard Branson and being able to be at such close proximity and listen to those wise words was just something that, helped me think differently. It was something that just, from being inspired, blown away, unbelievable moment where you see someone that you've always seen all over TV and, with an amazing story from an entrepreneurial, journey, just sitting there and answering questions and telling you things. It was just phenomenal. And I think up until this day, I still have kept all of the philosophies that he's shared. One of them that stood out for me was just waking up early. He mentioned that most of them just wake up super early. They have a really good way of managing time and they actually have longer days because they wake up early than the average person. Some of the guys he mentioned is like, wake up at 4 a.m., read a book, or go to gym or start doing something. But the rata of the day is what they emphasized.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
So what are those critical lessons that you've learned and can share on making a business profitable?
One is being able to work in the business and on the business is one of the core elements of growing any business. A lot of the guys work in the business. So they're busy with the day-to-day hustle and bustle, but they never look at working on the business. When I say you're working on the business, you're looking at more strategic elements. You're looking at things which aren't involved in the day-to-day. So for example, I'll look at 3 months from now, where does the company have to be? What could cause the demise of the company? What could cause the setback? And fixing things which we really need to focus on. And that could be staffing, that could be checking the cash flow, that could be making sure all the staffers are happy. So it's got nothing to do with the day-to-day, making a website, building a brand, calling a client. It's more looking at the business from an overview perspective. So I think that's one way. Guys need to learn to work in the business and out. So when I started, I'd work in and out and just shift my times around. But nowadays I spend like 80% out of the business and I'm working on it. Other people have done to fail. Now, I always say that, you can learn from the guys that are successful and you can learn from the guys that fail. I love to learn from the guys that fail. It helps me to stay away from certain things. So, just study a lot and put in a lot of energy into learning more. The greatest entrepreneurs are the guys that were continuously learning, continuously trying to be better, continuously trying to improve what they were doing. And I think that's one thing that I can share with the guys in saying, if you want to take a bust company and take it to the next level, try and learn, and continue to learn and continue to learn.
So in 2013, you were awarded the Stellenbosch, I believe, University Africa Center, gave you an award in recognition of your work, in your community for the youth. What do all of these nods, accolades, and awards, what do they truly mean to you?
I think in those days it was one of those earlier ones. And I think the thing is, for one, it boosts morale. It helps you understand that what you're doing is something that people acknowledge and see, and they really understand the depth of what you're doing. They what lack for a better word, they just strengthen what you're doing and your belief in what you're doing, and understanding that people out there acknowledge and understand and see what you're doing. There's various accolades, and they all mean the same thing to me, that we're headed in the right direction, and we certainly have something to offer the world.
So what would you say makes the South African business landscape unique?
I think South Africa is an emerging market as a whole, because South Africa just recently, got out of apartheid in 1994, and a lot of the things were segregated and closed for most of the people within the country. And I think having it being opened has, opened up a lot of opportunities for people. And South Africa still got a lot of things to learn from first world countries and bring them into South Africa and so forth. So I think what makes it unique is that we've just got a nice diversity of people, and all these different people have different ideas, and, the markets react differently to different campaigns, ads in my industry. And you'll find that a lot of the other agencies would call us and say, can you get insight, whatever it may be. And that's the great unique thing about South Africa, that you can't really say, look, we know the market, it's X, Y, and Z. It's got so many folds to it, and opportunities underlying here.
This is something I call the CEO journey. While on the CEO journey, what are those setbacks and challenges that you've had to overcome to make the strides that you've made so far?
The one that I would always, share or kind of speak about is, it was just one of those weird ones. I was texting while standing on the pavement, and a drunk driver just drove into me, and I fell into the main road, and 2-3 cars hit the body, and I was out for about a week or so, and I was on life support and all of that. So when I woke up, it's like my friends were praying, like, oh, wait. But long story cut short, I survived, and I couldn't really hear because I had too much blood clot in my head. I'd cracked my skull. The left part of my body wasn't working, the right leg wasn't working, so I couldn't really do much. And at the time, it was really early days for the business, and on a normal day-to-day basis, the business wouldn't survive, because the founder or the director is the one that kind of issues our strategy, how we're going to continue. But what came to me at the time was that delegation was one of the core things that we need to learn. And I always try and find the lesson out of anything that occurs in life. And I think from that, I learned the importance of delegating. And out of that, I learned the importance of having a succession plan. I needed it, but for a small business to have a succession plan, it's like a silly move, But I understood that anything could happen, and you really need to have a succession plan, that if anything ought to happen to me, there's someone in the company that knows how to run the company the way I do, and maybe in a better way. And, from losing money, losing clients, it's always been a situation where I try and sit back and try and look at the situation from an overview and kind of learn the lesson out of it. It brought out delegation, it brought out the succession plan, it also brought systems and processes. So now you would always open a cupboard, and if Bheki's not here but something needs to happen, you open the cupboard, whoever's got authority can open the processes in the system and kind of read what Bheki would have done. And it's a powerful thing, but it's, at the time the business was so small, all we cared about was making sales. But we had to learn how to also do corporate things. So.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Human resources is something we take very seriously in businesses. How do you typically hire?
I personally love being involved in all the interviews. Like, I want to see the person that's joining the team. I want to be able to kind of pick up the person and pick up their traits and their character and who they are, because that really shimmers in an interview. Where, one, I love to make sure that they are semi-formal, so it's not really formal, no one's wearing ties, and not to do with anything with you, but like, no one's wearing ties, no one's wearing suits, it's a semi-formal thing, and we always have a different spin to it where we've got the technical side of things where we say, okay, cool. So we've interviewed you, we've asked all these things, so cool. There's a table, there's a desk, there's your chair, that's your workstation. Work. 2 hours. Show us what you can do. And most of the time you'll find that there's a few things which the person forgot to mention when they have to do the work. And so I love to be there and I love to kind of see things and I love to kind of study the person myself. And I always, by all means necessary, try and hire someone that has something better than I have.
Okay, how would you describe your leadership style?
I'm someone that is approachable and someone that is, I've got it's like an open space policy. It's not even an open door policy. It's like an open space. Everyone's got access. I'm accessible to a point where you can just walk up to me at any time. Between flights and traveling, I am in the office quite a lot, and I try and be there with the guys and the team and whoever's managing the office and so forth. And I think I'm really a flexible leader and I'm really strategic and I try and sell the vision to the people because if we can all believe in the vision, then I think we can all travel the journey. I see myself as a visionary and quite strategic and approachable.
Now you tell me about your feelings as a leader.
I believe a lot of people tend to say that I lack the human aspect, or they say sometimes I'm a robot because I'm so strategic that look, it's that, and then people tend to kind of look for the fun, the play, and the human aspect or the emotion, and you wouldn't really say I don't have it, but I think I'm so focused that my core objective is to make sure that what we're doing gets done, and then emotions maybe later on. We'll have maybe after. Let's first get this done and that done, and so I think that's one of my failings, the human touch. I think that sometimes I'm just too driven to a point where I push really hard, and if someone's not coming along to the party, I usually drop you along the way. And I think that's not one of the greatest leadership skills to have, but I think it stems from this philosophy I picked up from Jim Collins that said, get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and then the right people who are on the bus, you just shift them around in the different seats until the bus has got all the right people all on the right seats. I'm really fast at that, and I really try and find the right people all the time. So if you're not really working with me,
you gotta go.
Get off the bus.
So tell me, you mentioned leadership skills. What are those key skill sets that a CEO needs to acquire in managing people?
I think one, being accessible. I learned that by not being accessible. Being able to share the vision and being able to help people feel part of it and help them understand that they are part of it, because that's the significance of having a business. Being a problem solver is something that you really need to have. Time management is really one core thing because it all starts with neglect. You neglect what you do with your time, then you neglect what you do with the money, then you neglect what you do with people. It all comes crumbling down, So I say time management is one of the core issues that we need to try and strengthen out, and then it kind of helps everything else.
What's the biggest letdown that you've experienced in your career so far?
Having so much faith and hope in a client to a point where we do work. And I think with this particular letdown, we've been doing work for November, December, January, February, and it's now March. And when we kind of called up the client is like, well, look, the company is bankrupt or semi-bankrupt or going into bankruptcy and they've run out of money. And I think it was such a big shock or such a big letdown to me and the company that, I had to really get on my toes and start thinking on the spot as to how we get out of that. And I think one of the core issues about it is that there are things you can't share with, staff or other people within the business because it might cause a panic. So sometimes as a leader, you kind of take those in and you wind up, like me. I cried for a couple of days trying to figure out how am I going to get out of this one. I didn't really think I'd get out of this one, having spent a large portion of money just financing a particular client's project and then they say, we're not going to pay. It's like, that's a joke, right? And like, no, it's not a joke. We don't have money.
Bheki is a man filled with a lot of what I term native intelligence. I would give him the title the Bounce Back King, as he has proven that no challenge could keep him down for long. For this hard-working leader who acknowledges his failings and is determined to always do better, how does he unwind and spend time away from work?
I have a few quick fire questions for you. What do you love to eat?
Braai, chicken.
What is your fashion style?
I'd call it corporate pantsula, meaning it's corporate, but it's just got a bit of, township flavor in it. So I'd wear a suit like you, but put in Chuck Taylors at the bottom.
Nice style. What other CEOs do you currently look up to?
Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Gugulethu.
What's your favorite car to drive?
No particular favorite.
What's your favorite travel destination?
Tanzania has some really cool spots. Tanzania and Mozambique. I love Africa.
What's your favorite book of all time?
The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Carson.
And what book are you reading right now?
The Secret.
And lastly, I would like to know, Bheki, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy is being in control, to be honest. My most awkward times is when I'm not in control.
Okay. Thank you for coming on Under 40 CEOs, Bheki.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hi, my name is Bheki Kunene, and you too can be an Under 40 CEO.